A very good morning to one and all present here. My name is Haseena Tawfeeqa, and I'm currently pursuing my first year in Electronics and Communication Engineering, and I am from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. And today, my topic is about the true education. Education is not just a word, it is a weapon. And today, I'm going to emphasize what not only an education is, a true education is. So, I brought a PPT presentation today, the true education. Let us go with the first slide. So today I'm going to talk about these highlights that I have presented in my first slide. And the first one is, are Indian students really pursuing the true education? And we'll be answering this question along with the second question. What do Indian students learn in the name of education then? And then comes the important scenario of today's talk, and that is the life cycle of an Indian from student to citizen. From school to college, then from college to career. How is an Indian student facing these phases along with the Indian's education system? What is then true education is actually? And this will be my heart of the presentation today. And I'll be talking about equality, equity, and equanimity. And what is learning rather than studying is? There is a huge difference between studying and learning. And I'll be explaining about this in today's talk. And what is the emphasis on development? And this is also a very important part of this presentation. How can this be brought to practice? If we are speaking about some kind of idea, we have to implement that and we have to see what kind of impact that it has on the community. And I'll be also sharing some ways through how which this can be brought to practice. That is the true education. And we'll be seeing about three important practices. And the first is the teacher-student relationship. The second is the parent-student relationship. And the third is the practical learning. And the last but not the least is the impact, the result of the implementation. So I'd like to go with my first question. Are Indian students really pursuing the true education? A big no. Definitely, the Indian students are not pursuing the true education. We'll see then what they really do pursue in the name of education. Yes. So, what do Indian students pursue in the name of education? Our education system does not teach about learning. It teaches the fear of exams, the fear of marks and grades, fear of failure, low self esteem, discrimination, least self development, and fear of life. So, from the beginning, we are training a child to fear the examinations, to define their life by numbers and percentage, grades, marks, and ranks, and eventually developing them for the fear of failure, then developing the low self esteem. We divide the children with the quality of education, seeding them inside the discrimination. Then, least self development is a consequence of the above said, and eventually this will lead to the fear of life. And this is what our education system is teaching about learning and teaching for the students. And we'll see the important part of today's presentation is the life cycle of an Indian from student to citizen. An Indian student has three phases in his or her life: being a school student, then fitting into a college, then finding a job. Being a school student aiming for high marks in a top tier college or university, but definitely not knowing what he is actually focusing on, why he has to go into a top tier college, and everything. Then fitting into a college, then worrying about placements, struggling to find a job, and again, a day-to-day battle with his life daily. Finding a job and then fighting again to sustain the job and increase the standard of living. But so far, here the major role is not played by the person or the student, but the education definitely. And here our system fails to prepare our students to build their own future and to use the powerful weapon called the education. We'll see to the next slide. At school, what is happening really? And here is where a student's life is starting and it will eventually develop into the fear of life. Parents try hard to make their children study in international schools, in CBSE schools, seeding the discrimination and standards of education in a child's heart. At the beginning itself, if this level is being practiced among the children. If it is international school, you are at the standard of living here. If it is CBSE, it is there to the next level. And if it's state board, it is to the lowest level. When it comes to the government school and private school, the discrimination is enlarged again. And from here itself, the discrimination is beginning among the students from the bottom of their heart. Students are brought up with different qualities of education. As I've said before, the discrimination starts from the quality of the education itself. It depends on the school name, from CBSE, international, and state board, and everything. Developing low self esteem, even from speaking English to problem solving, everything. Focuses is only on grades, marks, percentage, and ranks. This eventually means you have to focus on quantization, define your life with the numbers, allow defining the life with grades and marks rather than the students itself to define their own life. They are not taught to define their own life. They are not taught to build their own future. They'll develop eventually to focus on quantization rather than quality self development. Preparation for tons of competitive exam from the childhood phase, losing their childhood phase eventually, forgetting that they have that inner child within themselves. From the beginning, they're forced for the percentile, percentage, grades, ranks, and everything, rigorously focusing on the future without allowing the child to actually enjoy the present which is there in their hands. Today, children don't fear punishments, no respect for teachers, no self awareness, no self control, and definitely no self development. Students feel books heavy, feel school phase as the most stressful one, turn exams as an opportunity for committing malpractices and crimes. And this is what our education system is teaching us today for every children across the nation. We've lost to prepare the children for truly who they are supposed to be for the nation. So far, we only taught these to them, and this is the harsh reality. Let's enter to the second important phase of an Indian student, and that is at college. Currently, I'm also pursuing college. And once school phase is completed, and when students enter into the college, the student is left alone, as he's left in a forest or a jungle with no water, with no food and light to lit up the path. But the goal is to cross the forest and reach a beautiful island. But how is this possible? If he is prepared from the school itself, then he can eventually get into the college with lots of confidence and courage to find his own path and define his own path. That is what we've lost. We didn't prepare the children to build their own path, to build their own future. How is this possible for a student entering with lots of dreams? College becomes a place with no clue, turning the situation harsher than at school. Classes become compulsion, lectures become sleep melody, and attendance turns out to be lifeline for the 75 percentage of attendance. Records has no values, exams become the place for story writing, definitely. Nowadays, students in colleges usually write some sort of songs and deduction stories across the papers. And this is what is happening right now. Grades become a nightmare, but still, degree remains as the passport for the future. At college, students are no longer students. They suddenly turn out to be adults, left alone with no support, guidance, and definitely nothing. Then a student who leaves the college does not come with a skill set that he or she is supposed to possess. Eventually, this leads to unemployment, and definitely the GDP, the GSP, everything is declining because of this one particular education system that we fail to prepare them. Eventually, our nation is there at the lowest. We'll enter the most important phase at career. As I've said before, the school is failing to prepare the children for the college is failing to prepare for the future, and without no skill, a person leaves the college. After the big battle in between uncertainty, self doubt, chasing CGPA, internships, a student becomes a candidate one among the millions to sustain the corporate, battling daily with his life to sustain the corporate conditions. Today, many students pursue biology in their school, take computer science engineering in college, then work hard for government positions, preparing for the government examinations. This is one example out of millions of students. Then, at what point do students pursue education in our country? Without the due love on what they do, without due respect on the profession that they hold, without the interest on the domain that they choose, each and every day becomes a battle with tons of stress, depression, and hatred towards the core. And this will eventually lead to a lot of loss for our country. And then comes the point when the student will not be able to continue the job he is in, not able to move to take the next move, and he's stopped again by the system. There is no way. And now comes the thing that I truly believe that if these were brought into practice, we can definitely bring our nation to the brightest list. And we can bring out the power of the youth, definitely. From the bottom of my heart, I would say that these are the three important practices that we must include in our education system. What is true education is the one that gives the student equality, equity, and equanimity. What is equality is the right to education for all students across the nation, that each and every student in our nation has the right to the education, that he can access education definitely. And what is equity? The right to justified and fair quality education for all students. And this is what is equity is. The right for fair and quality education for all the students across the nation. Equanimity and education that does not bring stress. It should it should neglect the stress out of the syllabus and it should take inside the peace, the love, the enjoyment inside it. And that is what is equanimity. Nowadays, students only focus on studying. Eventually, they are focused on scoring marks, grades, and ranks. This focus is no one understanding the concepts. Gradually, the art of learning died. We always focus on studying rather than learning. I'd like to say what is actually studying and what is learning actually is. Studying is just rote memorization without raising the questions like why, how, what, where, when. Why are we studying this? Why we have to learn this? Where can we apply this? Who invented this? Who discovered this? And kind of questions are lost among the students today. If a formula is given, we study the formula. For example, we'll take like this is a basic level formula that everyone knows. That is what is a plus b the whole square is. But a student never knows why he studied a plus b the whole square is actually. And this is where our system fails to teach that why we are learning this, where do we apply this, who found this, and everything. But this is what studying is. When it comes to learning, we'll explore, we'll enjoy, we'll learn, we'll take all the observations, and we'll discover something new. We'll invent something new. And this is what is learning different from studying. It is only on exploration and then applying, discovering. When it comes to studying, it is stress, it is about memorization, it is not about applying at all. When we inculcate the beautiful art of learning in children, eventually children will understand that quality development is important rather than quantized grades that are transient. So grades will stay today but not tomorrow. It will eventually get decayed. But when learning is inculcated in each and every children in our country, they'll definitely know what is important, not quantization, but quality development. They'll push themselves beyond the books. They'll push themselves beyond their limits. They'll work hard for the nation, and we can bring our nation to the top. When students understand the subject, they'll further explore, learn, and eventually they'll invent. They'll try to invent something new. Through this, students will develop their own path of interest and passion. We have to provide them the path for passion if they are allowed to identify what their potential and passion is. Students should be taught the self responsibility as a nation's citizen, as India's youth, to give back all the treasure that one utilized from the nation, as Honorable former CM Annadurai said. That he said in his one of the convocation speeches, he said that whatever a citizen takes from the society, from all the toiling of all the workers, he has to give it back with his full heart to the nation again. Students should be brought up as individuals and citizens, enriched with knowledge scientifically, generally, and indefinitely culturally also. Through this emphasis on development, India will grow and definitely we can reach a greater height. And here comes the important three phases. How can we bring this true education to practice? And one important relationship among that is teacher-student relationship. A child's future is determined by his or her education, and his or her education is determined by the teacher. A teacher plays a very important role in a student's life. The teacher's words will decide the child's love for the education. A teacher is another parent for a child, and he or she should treat the student as his or her own child. A teacher can nurture a child, build confidence in him, build his future by shaping him, by sculpting his potential, and make him achieve and reach him greater heights in his life. Children spend nearly more than half of their school fees with their teachers. And definitely, a teacher has the most of the responsibility in a student's future from guiding him, nurturing him, and preparing him to build his own happy future. He should be given the path to decide his own future, to build his own future. And that is how our education system should help the students to build by themselves. We should prepare them to build for them. And next comes the important points in a student teacher relationship. The student teacher relationship should be very strong, such that the student should be able to confess all his thoughts without a barrier of fear, but with due respect to his teacher. He should be able to communicate without any fear, with all his freedom to the teacher. The student should respect the teacher from the bottom of the heart. It should not be like a kind of fear. It should be a bond that produces respect. It should not be like a barrier of fear. It should be complete due respect. The teacher should be the student's mentor as well as a friend. The student should feel the inspiration when he sees the teacher. Definitely, the teachers whom I came across in my life are my due inspiration. The teacher should always use encouraging words that will lift up a student and light up his path. The teacher should travel in the student's path for his future, shaping him, nurturing him at his low phases, lifting him up during his lows, and encouraging him further to do more when he achieves. The teacher should inculcate the values from the books and as well as beyond the books. We should not only focus on academic books, we should also focus on value based education that will build a person, that will build a human from the bottom of the heart. On the whole, a teacher must be a teacher, a guide, a friend, and another parent to a student. Then comes the parent student relationship, which is inevitable. The parents should also be friendly, but with the boundaries to the child. The parents should always be ready to listen to the children at any time, at any cost. And they should also build a habit of confessing on the daily activities of the child to them. That he should never dare to hide a subtle thing that happened in his life daily. The confidence should be built in a child that whenever he goes to his parent, he will have a guidance for his problem. But here we should note that he should not believe that there will be a solution from his parent. He should believe that he'll have the guidance and he'll be able to build his own solution. This is very, very notable point here. The parent should not only encourage the child on his or her good do's, but also reprove a child in a healthy manner if he does something in a wrong way. A healthy fear should be inculcated in the heart of the child upon his or her parents. So that inculcation of healthy fear is very, very important. The child should fear wrong paths and wrong habits. The parents should build a skill of identifying the goods and bads in the child. That he should be able to identify that this is good and this is bad. On the whole, the child should respect his parents, love them as friends, and believe them at any cost. Then comes the very, very important learning method, that is practical learning, which is also inevitable part of the Indian education system. It should be brought up. The practical learning is about understanding and bringing the applications of theory to life. Today, students fail to think, fail to innovate, fail to create something new. They have to have the ability to think, as I've said before, what, who, when, why, where, and everything should be built. Today, many AI tools and AI models have came, which are gradually declining the creativity among the children, and we have to definitely reform this, that their creativity does not die along the way. In practical learning, students should learn why we learn this. This is the first question he should raise. Why we learn this? And there should be an answer for that, definitely. What is the real life applications of this? Where do we use this? What impact does this create to the humanity? This is very, very important. Once he answers this question, he'll not be more than a selfish individual. He'll become a patriotic citizen for the nation. He'll give his all to the back to the nation. Are there any possible ways to improve this? This will build innovation. This will take our nation to the next step. Can any invention be made from this theory? It should not only stop as definition, it will not only stop as 2 mark question or 5 mark question, just not for examinations. It should go beyond the paper. Can anything be done from this theory? Can anything be brought to real life application? Will this help the humanity and the community? What, how, why questions must be raised and answered with full freedom. Today, children in the classroom doubt themselves and fear in name of shyness to raise the hands and ask the questions. They should be given the freedom and confidence to ask the question, and they should have the answers also. The exposure to the real world, hands-on experience must be given to the children. And here comes the impact if these were implemented. Increase in better life index. It is one of the measures in economics to measure that how well an individual's life is. Increase in human development index. How is an individual being developed? What is the state of development in his own life? And this is also one of the measures in economics. Increase of per capita income, increase in potential and qualified graduates. These are powerful impacts that can be made if true education is implemented. And finally, I'd like to close my presentation with one of my quotes from the bottom of my heart. Education is not about studying, rather, it is about learning. Not about marks, it is about developing the mind. Growing, not just going through the books. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Ma'am?
you, Haseena. Wonderful
Thank
talk,
you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
And if you can stop sharing your screen now, we can have a better view of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So nice. You spoke your heart out. As a student, you put your points. So, what specific reforms would you propose for the current examination system?
Current examination system, that we should focus on practical learning, ma'am. We should apply practical examinations more than theoretical examination.
Mhm. So how can teachers balance curriculum requirements with fostering true learning?
Curriculum requirements, the first thing is they have to go on with the practical learning. The second thing, they have to build a bond, not only with the curriculum, but beyond the curriculum, ma'am. That they should have a kind of an attachment with the student, that they can go beyond the curriculum and teach them what is the true life is actually. How can education be helpful in life? Likewise.
They need to put some emotional effort. I think they need to connect with the students emotionally also, stepping
Yes,
out
ma'am.
of,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, the curriculum borders. Yes. So, what role should parents play in implementing true education in your views, ma'am?
In my view, parents should never hesitate to hear something from the children about whatever it may be. And then, if a student complains about something or something that is negative on the view of education, they should first of all ask and raise the question, what is your point of view, what mistake you've done. Then only they have to uh, get into the part of teaching them depending on the situation, so that the parents should not take 1 second decision on anything that the child says. They should be very conscious on what the children says, what the children does actually. So once this guidance is good for the parents to the children, then that will be a very good education, I think, ma'am.
That's nice. So now you are done with your school education and you are a college student. How should colleges
Yes.
better prepare students for their careers?
Yes, ma'am. For colleges, now, as I've seen, I'm in my first year, that there is no kind of support or moral support that I'm given to. Actually, as a school student, I had the kind of support that I have to go in this path. I can find my path. I can do this way in my path. But here, I'm not even given the opportunity to discover that this is my path. I have to focus only on the college schedule, so that the college should not leave a student once he left the school as he is not a student at all. They have to still treat the student as they are student, and they have to guide them. They should show this is your path, go with the confidence. The moral support is definitely needed, ma'am, so that the college should provide a basic moral support emotionally as well as academic wise to a student.
Nice. So, what inspired you to speak on this topic, Hasina?
The first inspiration is the impact that my school created, because I was learning in three phases in my school. The one that I studied in state board, then my middle school was I was primarily focusing on CBSE board, then thirdly I was again to the state board. I could see the discrimination in quality education that is being provided, the opportunity that the world opens up for a CBSE student and then for a state board student, that the impact that my teachers in my schools created, because I was not given the kind of education that I expected in my school, in my high school and higher secondary. I was only taught to be very basic to get into the ground. They only teach me question answers, not even the concepts that is there in the textbook. So I did not get back, but I fought against it. I used all online resources. Then I could understand that if I am the only person here, then there are millions of students across the nation who face the same problem. What kind of difficulties and struggles they do face to get out of this education system and achieve in this system even. And that is what lit up the fire inside me, that these kind of reformations have brought in system. Definitely we can take our nation to the greater heights. Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. How can discrimination between school types be eliminated?
Ma'am, by providing the same kind of education, we not even the textbooks is same for the NCRT syllabus and as well as state. But I don't know, ma'am. Literally, I don't know why do that kind of a differentiation is there in between the books. Even when we see some kind of books in CBSE CBSE levels, they are sophisticated and definitely they have very good content. When it comes to state board, it isn't like that, ma'am. So from the basic things like providing the textbook itself, we should decline the discrimination. From that till everything, even the subjects, when it opens up to 11th standard and 12th standard, we don't have the same kind of sophisticated subjects as in CBSE for the state board students. Like this basic things we have to eliminate, ma'am, so that we can definitely take discrimination out of education.
But the boards are different, right, Hasina? CBSE board is different. They follow something. The IB board is a different kind of teaching. They believe in different concepts, and the state board. So, how to integrate?
Yes, ma'am. That is what I'm saying is there should be no differentiation in boards itself, that
Okay.
every children should get the education similarly.
So, uniform education system you want to bring in India?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good thought. That's a lovely thought. So, in your view, what countries' education systems do you think India should emulate?
Ma'am, Japan's education system.
Why do you think so?
Ma'am, they focus on practical learning rather than just theory. Uh, they build not only just academic wise students, they build the persons and citizens that are required for their nation. They build the human being. They build due respect inside a student. They build that they build a true human inside them. And I think that if that education system is reformed with our Indian education system, we can definitely bring out a huge change.
Good. Any idea about Finland's education system? We hear a lot of praises about Finland's education system too. Any idea?
Sorry, ma'am.
That's
No,
fine.
ma'am.
So, what do you suggest? What do you think? What changes are needed in teacher training programs?
Teacher training programs. Ma'am, the first thing I would say is the emotional attachment and the motherhood bond, that parenthood bond that the teacher should hold with the student. Because the bond is what is missing that I've seen in many cases. Then the second thing is we have to include the value-based education training for the teacher training programs. These are the two significant things we can include in teacher training programs, ma'am.
Right. I think we have a moral science class also implemented in the schools. Maybe like it should be included in the teacher training programs too. It's what you think?
Hmm. Science programs. Ma'am, one thing I've seen is teachers usually have in my state. Teachers usually have some kind of charts, and for practical learning, they'll be ready with some kind of charts in teacher training programs, but they usually don't apply that in the real life. When they come into the classroom once, they don't definitely apply that
I'm talking
such kind
about
of things.
moral science. I'm talking about moral science. So we
Moral science, ma'am.
moral science. So do you think that it should be a compulsory topic for the teachers in their training program so that they develop empathy and they try to strike an emotional bond between, like, with the students? Is that what you were trying to tell?
Yes, ma'am, sure, ma'am. Moral science can be included as a compulsory subject in teacher training. Definitely, ma'am.
I'm sure they must be having. So I don't know about that. So, what do you think? How can we address the mismatch between education and employment?
It is.
Do you think there is a mismatch what we learn? And for employment, like, is it suitable or are we really prepared as a student? What do you think? Are you really prepared to face the world? How do you want to put it? How do you want to be inculcated in students to face the real world?
No, ma'am, definitely not. There is a definite mismatch between the education system and the employment because, as the beginning thing itself, the basic thing is there is no practical learning. If we are prepared here to do something, but we are there, we have to apply some other things. We are not going to directly apply the definitions, or we are going to say something that we've learned from the books. We are going to do it practically, and here the do it thing is being declined. So this is the greatest mismatch that I would say for the employment and education that we follow today.
Right. So, as a student, what do you think? How can we reduce student stress while maintaining academic standards?
And the thing is, from the basic itself, from the primary classes itself, we can reduce the stress by we have to inculcate the practice of enjoying the education. Such a kind of practice, such a kind of education should be inculcated in the heart so that they'll not feel books as heavy. They won't see exams as stress. They'll definitely enjoy learning, enjoy education. So that by this practice from the beginning itself, we can reduce the stress among the students, ma'am.
So, what do you think? What is the ideal teacher student ratio maintained in a classroom for a true education? Will it matter?
Sorry, ma'am, I don't have idea about the ratio of student and teacher.
In the sense, a class of 50 managed by a teacher
Yes,
and a
ma'am.
class of like one teacher is assigned for a group of 10 students or 5 students. Will that bring any good result? Will it be beneficial for the student? That's the student teacher ratio I'm talking about. What are your views on that? Do you think a big class can't be handled by the teacher? Do you think the teachers can perform better and they can grow a personal bonding in the sense like where the student feel comfortable and gain the confidence to ask the teacher, right? Because he'll be monitored closely because it's a less student teacher thing. So, what do you think? Does it make a difference?
Yes, ma'am. It will make a difference. A huge number of students should not be handled by a single teacher. If there are less number of students, definitely the good environment will be there for learning, and as well as individual attention and care can be given.
Mhm. So, coming back to your starting thing, actually, I have approached you when I saw your profile, Pariksha Pe Charcha, right?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
how did that happen? And tell us about that thing. It should be the first question to ask, but I wanted to end it with a very positive, feeling, and the viewers also will should get, you know, to know about your achievement. So, let's talk about it.
Yes, ma'am. Pariksha Pe Charche, actually, I usually see some kind of quizzes and some kind of events in the central government's website. And one such thing was Pariksha Pe Charche, which means that we have to bring some kind of changes in our education system or some kind of stress tackling tips that we could give to students. So, this was the main motto of the program. So, we are supposed to give some 5 tips for that particular program, and I was giving five tips from my own experience. I was attending it when I was in 11th standard through online mode only. Then after that, I was giving on the points of significance of the practical learning. That was my main motto. Practical learning was missing, so in what ways can practical learning be implemented? So this was my main motto. So I listed out 5 major points that practical learning should be implemented in this way, and through this we can bring out drastic change in our system and in our outcomes. So for that, among 1,500 students nationwide, I was selected the one among them, and I received an appreciation letter from the PM office, ma'am.
Great, what a wonderful feeling. So, to end the talk with the last question, I'll ask you, how do you envision India's education system in 10 years? Mhm.
Ma'am, if this education system is followed, definitely I think that we cannot get into greater heights, but we can if few changes are made, few reformations and amendments are done in our system, we can get into greater height. So in 10 years, we uh, we have to bring such changes to take our nation to greater height.
Okay. So, your achievement, right? So, are you in touch with anyone or like did it bring any change after you achieved this? Did your advice taken seriously or anything? Can you throw some light on that?
No, ma'am. They have said that they'll be taking this and they'll be implementing this, but so far they haven't, I think.
So hopefully it will take time to implement because bringing equality, from like from every board, I think it's a huge task, right? So maybe we can envision India's education system in 10 years with your reform advice.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Hopefully, we should be hopeful all the time. So it was lovely talking to you, Miss Haseena. And
Thank you,
before I
ma'am.
end the session, anything else you want to mention, ma'am?
I would like to thank you, ma'am, from the bottom of my heart for giving me such a beautiful opportunity.
So it's about it's a school reformer, right? So we
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
hear and we want to bring some reform and through the speakers. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, ma'am. Thank you.